Yeah, those can be awesome, but also, honestly, sometimes a little complicated, right?
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know when things are just like a little off, you
Yeah.
know? And that's where this snippet we found about this podcast comes in. It's all about those red flags in friendships.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to like unpack all of that today
Yeah,
and figure out how to deal with, those tricky situations.
I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah. And thankfully, we've got our expert here who knows all about like the psychology behind all this stuff. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know all about it, but, I could share some insights. I
yeah.
think what's so interesting about this whole red flag thing is, we usually hear about red flags in dating, right? Romantic
Mm.
relationships.
Oh, for sure.
But we don't always apply that same kind of careful observation to our friendships.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like we assume, oh, they're our friends. Everything's going to be, fine.
Right. Like, we don't need to be as cautious.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I think this whole topic is so important because this podcast actually talks about red flags around setting boundaries, which is something I think we all like struggle with, right?
Oh, yeah. Boundaries can be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for example, they gave this example in the snippet of a friend who like constantly borrows money and never pays it back.
Yeah.
Even, when you've mentioned that, like it makes you uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's a classic one.
Right. Have you ever dealt with something like that?
Oh, totally. I think we all have at some point. And it's such a good example of why, boundaries are important. Like, this podcast seems to really try to help people recognize when, their limits are being pushed.
Yeah.
And more importantly, how to actually talk about it.
Yes. Because, I mean, that's the hard part, right? Like, how do you bring it up without, making things weird? Especially if it's like a longtime friend.
It can feel so awkward, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So beyond boundaries, the source also talks about this idea of knowing like when to offer support, but also when to just like let go of a friendship.
Whoa, that's big.
Right. I mean, those seem like really tough things to navigate.
Absolutely. Those are like two sides of the same coin,
Uh-huh.
Like, supporting your friends is super important. But there's also a point where, you have to recognize if it's become like one-sided or even unhealthy.
Right. Right.
Like, think of it this way. We'd all help a friend move, right? No problem. But what if that friend constantly expected you to like drop everything for them and never ever reciprocated? That's when those red flags should be going off.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like, okay, we're getting all these insights about, red flags, but why should we, the listeners, really care? Like, what's the real impact of all this?
It's a great question. And it's not just about like avoiding drama or whatever. Unhealthy friendships can like really affect us on a deeper level. Like, did you know that research shows it can actually impact our stress levels?
Seriously?
Yeah, and even our immune system.
Wow.
It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's like carrying around all this extra baggage. It prevents us from really being our best selves.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
It's pretty powerful stuff.
So recognizing those red flags,
Yeah.
it's like not just about avoiding drama, it's actually about like protecting ourselves.
Exactly. And it seems like, at least based on this snippet, that this podcast goes beyond just identifying the red flags. It's
Yeah.
like it also offers like actual strategies for dealing with these tricky situations.
Oh, that's good. So like what kind of strategies are we talking about? It's not just like, hey, you're a bad friend.
Oh, definitely not. For one, they mention communication skills, learning to like express your needs and boundaries in a way that's assertive but also kind. It's tricky, but finding that balance is key. You want to be honest, but also like preserve the friendship, right?
Right. I think a lot of us could use some help with that. Is there anything else?
Yeah, it seems like they also touch on conflict resolution because
Yeah.
disagreements are going to happen in any relationship.
Right.
But it's about how to address them constructively so that they don't like fester and actually damage the connection.
Mhm.
And sometimes, if it gets to that point, it's about recognizing when walking away is actually the healthiest thing,
Yeah.
which is like the hardest part, probably.
Letting go is tough.
Yeah,
But sometimes it's like you said, it's the best thing.
definitely.
So to like recap, we've got all these red flags to, be on the lookout for.
Hmm.
Like boundary issues, uneven support, trouble resolving conflict.
Right.
And by recognizing those red flags, we're not only protecting ourselves, but we're also creating space for those like really healthy and fulfilling friendships.
Exactly. It's all about like raising our awareness and giving ourselves the tools to build those strong connections. And that actually brings up a really interesting question. How might understanding these red flags in friendships actually like empower you to build healthier relationships in all areas of your life? Work, family, romantic. It's all connected, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. Something to think about.
Definitely. Food for thought.
All right, everyone. That's it for today's deep dive. Until next time.
See you then.